Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about episode 3 of Arcane, the base violence that the base violence necessary for change. So I'm going to probably talk very quick now spoilers, and then we're going to jump over spoilers so we can talk in more detail. And as always, please make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And let's begin. Wow. Okay, wow, this show. Wow, this episode like took a major turn. This episode completely changed the entire tone of the show. It changed pretty much everything about the show. I think now the show is really actually going. This is amazing for an episode 3. I don't think I've ever seen such a just a absolute shift in the show like this. It's just wow. Tuber said that this episode was mind blowing, and oh my god, they were so correct. Wow. This absolutely blew my mind. The show completely took a major turn and just changed everything. So it's really interesting the way the mystery that was kind of unfolding was happening. And then we honestly get answers to a lot of the mysteries that were set up in the previous episodes. And then we just get this entire dynamic shift, and it seems like the show is going in a completely different direction. So everything that I was saying before, while still relevant, is like the assumptions I was making about how the show was going and where it was going and everything is so completely wrong. And that's really cool. It's a lot of fun. But like, wow, this episode did some stuff that I just would not have guessed. Like, whoa, it is so good. And I have to jump into spoilers like immediately in order to talk about it because I just can't really talk about it without end up spoiling some stuff. And this is episode 3, so I hope if you're not already watching it, you start watching this show because it's really good. So let's go ahead and start with spoilers for Arcane episode 3. So wow. So I can't believe all that stuff happened. Wow. So I just want to talk really quick about the other storyline that happens apart from everything else that happened, all the big stuff that happens in the episode. So we go back to Jace and Victor, I'm pretty sure his name is. So we basically pick up again with Jace and Victor, and they're basically they are doing all the math and stuff, and basically they prove the entire concept of hex tech, which is really cool. But like the hex tech, I don't know, it's hard to say for some reason. But the entire concept, they basically get to prove it through their equations and stuff. So it basically is like, yes, we can actually do this, but I need the equipment. We need to actually run an experiment to prove that this is possible. So the Victor, he's basically like, well, I got the keys and stuff because he's still a part of the university and everything. So they go and secretly try to go and get his stuff, and they run into that one ambassador lady who basically her introduction in the last episode was, I need to find a way to get more rich than the rest of my incredibly rich family. Like they're all ridiculously wealthy, and now it's at a point where they're competing between each other, I guess, to be wealthy. So she's like trying to do whatever she can to basically give, I guess, the city more prestige and stuff. So because she's on the council that runs everything, so or at least the council of the school. I'm not quite sure about that. It seems like they run the entire city, but maybe the university is just a very big part of the city. That part I'm not entirely clear on, but basically she says you have one night, like just try to do the experiment tonight and prove the point, because if I have evidence that it's real, then I can kind of try to push for it favorably and like kind of bat down all the people that are super naysaying the entire concept. So they go ahead and they start the experiment and stuff, and it looks really dodgy. It's like they try to do they crank up the amplitude or something like that, and it's supposed to stabilize the fluctuation of the energy and everything. And like I guess it worked because it like blasts out the window and like shoots like a beam or something out the window, but then it pulls it all back in and kind of fixes itself. But then it keeps going, and eventually I think he used this dial thing to mimic a lot of the motions that the man with the stick was using. So he was teleporting them from like icy tundra area of the planet to I guess another one. But I don't think it's exactly the same kind of motions that the guy was doing with the stick or anything, because that transported them, whereas this didn't. This it kind of opened up, I don't know, like a null gravity field, and they just like started floating, and there was all these cool lights and stuff everywhere. I thought that was really cool. He basically proves the tech possible. So hex tech is totally possible and it's totally doable. And she's the one who basically kind of secretly sponsored them for a second. She's like, yeah, we're going to push it into the council and everything because the other people like showed up trying to stop them. Because it's like if you just because you can doesn't mean you should, which is a good point. But innovation and all that stuff. So we get to see all that stuff going on later. Like that's kind of where we leave that storyline. But then everything else that's going on is like, wow. So last time we left Violet, it looked like she was basically turning herself in to the enforcers, and that's kind of what she was trying to do. But before she can basically turn herself in, Vander shows up. Vander and one of the other people from the underside or whatever shows up, and they basically tell her, no, like you can't do this and all this stuff. And he was going to pretty much sacrifice himself. He was going to turn himself in so that the enforcers have somebody, it's basically so that they have a scapegoat to deal with the whole issue on topside. So he locks Vi in the room and stuff and goes basically voluntarily, and they arrest him and stuff and take him out. But then this guy who is from Vander's past like shows up, and he's got the guy that he had take the like Dr. Jackal, Mr. Hyde mutagen last episode and stuff. That's like his assassin guy. He's like have him kill all these people. It was like just all these people, and it was one of the people that was close to them, and everything died. And it was just like wow, like Vi was in the basement and stuff trying to see what was going on, and it's just blood splatter hits the window, and it was just like what is going on? Like I was already just so confused. I'm like, what? I'm like, what's going on? Like it is crazy, but it's like it's Vander's older or brother, as he called him, his brother or whatever. I don't know if they're like brothers, or just really close from their past and stuff like that. But they keep flashing back to this moment. So they were fighting, and he was trying to drown him. He was trying to kill him. I'm guessing a situation of the previous war or some other situation, or we'll just get that information later. But he basically takes him to his lair, more or less, and like tries to get Vander to use the same mutagen, and he like has him locked down and stuff. But Vi goes back to the hideout after she gets out, after the little guy, Eco, I believe his name is, gets her out. And he saw everything, so he's like hyper traumatized, and I was like real heart wrenching stuff because he's like a little kid. And so she basically goes back to go get some gear, and she gets the power gauntlets that he showed, like they hinted at and stuff before. And she like gets all that stuff, but Powder wants to go, and she's like, no, you can't go this time. Like this is legitimately too dangerous. Like you have to stay here and stuff. And Powder like really feels some type of way about it. She's weeping and everything. And I thought that was like really heartfelt and kind of heart wrenching. Like she just so desperately wants to help, and it almost never goes right. It does like her devices and stuff don't work, and it just never goes right. And she so desperately wants to help, and like it's so relatable. And like I feel so bad for her, because she's a little kid and everything. And, so they leave her behind, and then they go and deal with it. But then when they go and get to Vander, he's like, how did you get in here? There's guards and stuff everywhere. And they're like, oh, we just found an open window, and then they realize at the last second, like, this is clearly a trap. So they are trapped because the guy's plan is to basically kill Vander and his kids, and say that they basically abandoned the Undersider people in order to rile them up to go to war. So he's trying to like run this whole plan and everything, and then she like puts on the gauntlets and stuff, while the other kid is trying to pick the locks on his shackles and everything. And she just like goes and murks all these guys that he has with him and stuff. And they're on this very Batman like catwalk and stuff, and it's like I guess it was a decent drop. It didn't seem too far, but she just I don't know. I thought her arms and stuff would be too small, but the handles or whatever, the way the gauntlets work, she was able to just like wreck these people. It was so impressive. I was like, this is so cool. She clearly learned a lot from him. So it was like, I can totally see how in the video game that would be a lot of fun to play. I hope those are definitely usable in the video games. Because like, whoa, like that's so crazy. But then while she's fighting, he ends up using the other guy, the other Dr. Jackal, Mr. Hyde guy, and like pumps him with the mutagen so he can like bulk up and stuff and go and take her out. And she like tries, and she's got this awesome like hero pose, like punch going moment. And he just like grabs her by the throat and stuff, like because he's super fast and strong and stuff. And she like almost dies, and she gets her ass beat a little bit. And then they end up basically having to barricade themselves into the room where Vander is, while the other kid is still trying to get his other two shackles off. And Powder has realized, oh yeah, the little splody things, the little blue crystal things are, volatile or whatever. She's like, maybe if I use them with my little nail bombs or whatever, I can be of some kind of help. So because she desperately wants to be of help. So she grabs her stuff and finds them and everything. And she sees, because she's like on the roof or whatever, and she sees them dealing with all that stuff. So she tries to help them by throwing one of those things at the big Mr. Hyde guy. And, the thing, I don't really understand what happened. Either she threw about 3 or 4 of them, or it had some crazy magical effect. But it was like, we see the scene because she has one tied around the neck of like a little clapping monkey doll. And like we see the last clap where it claps the crystal and it explodes. We see that like 4 different times but the explosions we see are in like different areas. So I'm confused if that's like a magical effect or if it was just re-emphasizing that one thing caused such a ridiculous gigantic explosion and stuff. So but like the whole place kind of goes up and like everything start falling and major destruction and everything, and the whole most holy shit of all kinds of holy shit moments happen. So the one kid who's got the goggles and stuff, he's actually like a demo expert. He's like tapping on the wall and stuff and realized the wall has such a material that they could scrape away at it in order to get to the bricks, and he could just push out the bricks because the mortar was probably bad. So he's like doing this and pretty much broke his way through the entire wall and everything. So I'm like, that's so cool. But then like the explosion happens, and then he gets, I don't even know what happened. His glasses gets like knocked off and his face is like bleeding. He gets slammed to the wall and like slumps in this way that looks like he's completely dead. So like, oh my god, holy crap, did they just kill him? Is he just injured? What's going on? And then the other kid that was doing the lockpick, the slimmer kid, he like is trying to help or like going to him and stuff, and like he gets hurt and like stuff like shrapnel and stuff like pierces him and stuff, and like it's this giant pole in him and he's trying to like pull it out, and then he just looks up and the ceiling falls on him and they're completely covered in rubble. And same thing with Vi. So they're all just in the room, and Vander is basically okay. He's kind of injured, but like he wasn't near where like the roof fell in. So I'm like, holy crap, did they just kill these kids? What just happened? Like, I'm sitting here like, this doesn't happen. I'm like, these are the main characters, aren't they? I'm like, they're the main crew. Like, what's going on? What's going on? Like, I just couldn't process it. I was freaking out so much. I was like, what is going on? And then, like, after Vi is established as alive and stuff, we get Vander tries to go and fight, and like he fights the big roided up guy like head to head, just straight up. And I'm like, now he's badass because that guy is like in Mr. Hyde mode, and he was able to hold his own for a second, but he still he gets shanked by the guy who's his brother, because they show in the flashback he was choking him and he almost died, but he pulled Vander's blade out and stabbed him in the hand, and that's how he got out and got away and stuff. And so he basically just shanks him and like starts stabbing him, and as he's trying to choke him again in that instance, I can't really tell if he let go because he, still has affection for him as his brother or something like that, or if it was because he like apparently kept stabbing him in the stomach and he was dying, so he lost strength and everything. So I'm assuming that because he straight up dies. And, well, he doesn't die. He falls and then gets pushed off the catwalk thing and falls into a giant crate of all the mutagen. So when that happens, I'm like, just drink it. You're already injured and stuff. Maybe it'll heal you. Just drink it either way so you go get some revenge. And he does drink it later because he pops up when the guy's about to kill Vi. So he pops up and like saves her and like immediately kills the other guy that was all hulked out and stuff. And I was like, wow, the whole sequence was insane. But then like we established that Violet's alive, but the other two are still under rubble, and like we see a hand and we see them under a bunch of stuff, and like they're not moving, there's no hand twitch, there's no indication that they're alive. I'm like, maybe some kind of magical thing, we can reverse it or something like that. And then so right before Vander is able to deal with the final blow, basically, he realizes the building is about to come down on Violet, and she's clearly trying to get out from under the rubble and can't. And then, like, so he basically has to make a choice. Save her or go after him. Save her or go after him. So, of course, he chooses her. So he grabs her and jumps out the window, and the whole thing collapses in fire and rubble and everything. So I'm like, those two are dead. I'm like, we just straight up killed the other two kids. I'm like, they're dead, or is there, like, going to be some magical reversal thing that's going to happen later or something? I'm like, what the hell? And then, like, after he saves her, they're, like, on the ground and stuff. And that was like the last of his injuries, because I was apparently wrong. He didn't get healed because of the mutagen. It just kind of, gave him a last bit of strength or whatever. So it looks like he bleeds out and he dies. So Vander is dead, and Violet is like, of course, just distraught, just lets out this primal yell. And then Powder shows up like happy and stuff because she thinks she helped and everything. And she's like, you did this. And like she blames her immediately, and she's like mad at her and punched the crap out of her. And just like walks away from her. And like right after Vander said take care of Powder, like she immediately ditches her, and she's just like weeping, like just crying on a level I haven't seen in animation before, just absolutely weeping. And then that guy shows up, and a lot more of his crew survived than I thought. And then he's basically he basically just offers it to her because she was just so ready to freaking to just, I don't know, go with anybody else. Like as soon as he shows up, and he's like, "Where's your sister?" And she immediately throws herself into his arms like, "She left me." And he's like, "Oh," he immediately sees it as an opportunity. It's like, "Well, I can use you," and like pats her on the head and stuff. Because he also relates to her because it seems like similar thing happened to him with Vander. So he's he like pats her head and says, "We'll show them." And then like Powder gives this look to the camera that was like so intense. Like I literally got goosebumps in that moment. It was so intense. And Vi has been basically kidnapped slash forcibly recruited by the last of the enforcers that survived that immediate attack when they were taking Vander away. So there was one enforcer that survived, and he found his way to find Violet, and like he took her, so forcibly recruited her to help him out. So that was basically where the episode ends, and I was like, "What?" I'm just sitting there the whole time. I'm just like, for the longest time after all this stuff happened, I'm like, "What is going on? Like, how are y'all doing this? Like, what is?" Like, did they just really kill them? Like, are they dead? So, like, what? Like, I'm still sitting here like, what? We just killing kids now? What is going on? Like, I still can't believe it. I can't believe it. So, yeah, let me know what you all think about the episode in the comments down below. If you're interested in my reactions to this, check out my Patreon. The link for that is in the description below. But wow, this is a great episode. I liked it so much. I'm just mind blown. The entire show's gone in a completely different direction than I expected. So I'm really excited to get on to episode 4 and finish up the series. So yeah, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And I will talk to you all next time. Peace.